All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're going to the Mughal Empire with the reign of Shah Jahan. So you know him as the Taj Mahal guy, but we're going to see him in a whole new light today.
Yeah.
We're talking about a time when architecture wasn't just about buildings. It was a statement. It was imperial power,
Mhm.
and it fueled this cultural golden age. And we've got some awesome sources to guide us. We've got history books, architectural studies, and even firsthand accounts from travelers.
It's true, Shah Jahan does often get reduced to the Taj Mahal, but his era was so much more than that. It was politics, religion, artistic innovations, and yes, a booming economy. What pops into your mind when you think of Shah Jahan?
When I think of Shah Jahan, I think of stability. The Mughal Empire under Shah Jahan inherited a pretty stable and prosperous situation, unlike the Delhi Sultanate that came before, which was constantly in chaos. The Mughals didn't have to micromanage every little province. They had a system in place.
That's an excellent point. It's like the foundation was set for them. Even today, leaders can only achieve those big, ambitious goals when there's peace and resources. And Shah Jahan had both. What if he had inherited a turbulent empire?
That's right. And that brings us to the architecture.
Hmm.
Okay, yes, we have to acknowledge the Taj Mahal. It's an icon for a reason. But Shah Jahan's architectural vision was so much grander. He gave us the Red Fort in Delhi, the Jama Masjid Mosque, he expanded the Lahore Fort, and wait for it, the Shalimar Gardens. I mean, the variety is incredible. He wasn't just focused on tombs and palaces. He also invested in infrastructure and public spaces like mosques for everyday people. This wasn't just showing off. This was about creating a legacy.
And that's where it gets fascinating. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said legacy. These weren't just vanity projects. They were carefully designed to showcase Mughal power to the world. Imagine yourself standing in front of the Red Fort for the first time. It's the scale, the grandeur. I mean, it would be impossible not to feel the weight of the empire.
Absolutely. It's like how countries today use these big, impressive buildings to project an image on the world stage. It's all about power and prestige. But you know what's even more interesting? Shah Jahan actually had inscriptions placed in his private quarters. It's almost like he was anticipating history judging him. He wanted to make sure his side of the story was heard. Talk about a control freak.
Huh. That's a fantastic detail. It really shows his awareness of his legacy. But let's not forget that the Mughals' cultural influence went far beyond their own projects. Even the Mughal architectural style started to appear in buildings built by Hindu nobility. And it wasn't forced, it was a sign of the Mughals' cultural dominance. People wanted to emulate their style.
Wow. Yeah, that's a powerful statement. So we've got peace power plays and stunning buildings. But all this grand architecture, it had to cost a fortune. What fueled this incredible building boom was Shah Jahan secretly sitting on a mountain of gold?
He might as well have been. The Mughal Empire at that time was an economic powerhouse. They had thriving trade agriculture. And get this, efficient tax collection. Any modern-day ruler would be envious. But what's especially interesting is how this wealth trickled down.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this trickle-down economics Mughal style.
Well, our sources point to the sarais as a key example. Remember those roadside inns we mentioned? Nobles wanting to both protect their trade investments and impress the emperor? They actually financed the construction of these sarais. It was a win-win. They fulfilled the emperor's decrees while showcasing their own wealth and status. It shows how a strong economy and cultural flourishing can go hand in hand.
So it's not just about the emperor throwing money around. It's a whole system working together. You've got smart rulers, wealthy nobles, talented artisans. Things are looking pretty good for the Mughal Empire under Shah Jahan. But here's the question I always have when we look at these golden ages. Was it truly golden for everyone?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? While a lot of the sources focus on the elites, we can still piece together a glimpse of what life was like for ordinary people. It's like trying to find those missing puzzle pieces.
All right, let's get our detective hats on. What can we learn about everyday life in Shah Jahan's India?
Well, the caste system was very much in place, so your life was largely determined by what caste you were born into, your job, your social standing, pretty much everything. And while the empire as a whole is prospering, things like poverty and disease were still a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah, so even in a golden age, not everyone gets to enjoy the glitter. It makes you realize that there are always those multiple perspectives and experiences to consider. We can't just look at the fancy palaces and assume everyone was living the good life.
Exactly. And it's worth noting that even seemingly small improvements, like those upgraded sarais we talked about, likely had ripple effects throughout society. Think about the traders, the travelers, even the communities along those trade routes. Their lives were probably impacted in ways we don't even realize.
It's all connected, isn't it? Speaking of connections, one thing that really stands out about Shah Jahan's era is that incredible fusion of cultures. You see it everywhere, especially in the architecture and design. They were blending Persian, Indian, even European elements. It's like a cultural melting pot.
It really was, like the Mughal gardens.
Yeah.
They combine the geometric precision of Persian gardens with the lushness and symbolism of Indian traditions, and the use of pietra dura, that intricate inlay work with semi-precious stones. It was a testament to the skills of Indian craftsmen, but inspired by European techniques.
Wow, I never knew that about Pietra Dura. It's amazing to see how these different styles come together to create something so unique and beautiful.
Yeah.
But this cultural fusion wasn't just limited to architecture, right?
Absolutely not. You see it in Mughal painting. Delicate Persian miniatures blended with those bolder Indian colors and themes. You hear it in the music. A combination of Indian ragas with Persian melodies. Even the textiles, Indian silks and cottons woven with Persian motifs. It was a time of incredible creative exchange.
Okay, I have to admit, I'm starting to get a little jealous of the people who got to experience this era firsthand. Grand architecture, economic prosperity, this amazing cultural mix. It sounds pretty amazing. But I know it can't be that simple. Every historical period has its complexities, right?
Right. It's tempting to get swept up in the romanticized version of the past. But we have to remember that every story has multiple sides. And that's where things get really interesting, looking beyond the surface and uncovering those hidden complexities.
Ooh, I love a good historical mystery. So what lies beneath the surface of Shah Jahan's seemingly golden age? What aspects might we be overlooking?
Well, for one thing, while the Mughal elite was enjoying this explosion of art and culture, we have to consider what it took to create those masterpieces. Think about the labor involved in building something like the Taj Mahal or the Red Fort.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the beauty of it all and forget about the human cost. It makes you wonder about the working conditions, the resources, even the environmental impact of these massive construction projects.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of economic inequality. While some merchants definitely benefited from the empire's wealth, that gap between the rich and the poor may have actually widened during Shah Jahan's reign.
So even with all the prosperity, the golden age wasn't so golden for everyone. It's a good reminder that progress isn't always evenly distributed.
Precisely. And as we delve deeper into this era, it's essential to keep that in mind. We need to look beyond those dazzling monuments and the lavish lifestyles of the elite and consider the experiences of all the people who lived through these times, the good and the bad.
That's a powerful reminder. We can't just focus on the emperors and their achievements. We have to think about the social and economic realities of their decisions. So what else can we learn about the less glamorous side of Shah Jahan's rule? Well, one thing that pops into my mind is that Shah Jahan moved the capital from Agra to Delhi and built a whole new city, Shah Jahanabad. Can you imagine all the resources and labor that went into creating a capital from scratch?
Yeah, it was a massive undertaking, Shah Jahanabad with the Red Fort at its heart. It was designed to be the symbol of Mughal power and grandeur. But all that grandeur came at a cost, and it's likely that a lot of laborers were forced to work on the project.
Right. It's a sobering thought. It reminds me of something I read about the Taj Mahal. The white marble was transported from quarries hundreds of miles away using the system of ramps, elephants, and oxen. It's an incredible feat of engineering. But it must have been backbreaking work for both human and animal labor.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that the beauty and splendor we admire today often have these hidden costs. And it wasn't just about physical labor either. The construction of these grand projects required immense resources. Marble, timber, precious stones. These were often extracted from distant lands, potentially depleting natural resources and impacting local communities.
It's easy to get caught up in that romanticized version of history and forget about the real-world consequences. But by acknowledging those complexities, we get a much richer and more accurate understanding of the past.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most important takeaways from our deep dive into Shah Jahan's era. It's so important to view history with a critical eye, question those dominant narratives, and consider the experiences of all those who lived through these times, not just the emperors and the elite.
So as we wrap up our exploration of Shah Jahan's architectural legacy and the cultural flourishing that surrounded it, what are some of the key things we should remember?
Well, I think we've learned that Shah Jahan's era was so much more than just the Taj Mahal. It was this period of complex interplay between architecture, power, economics, and cultural change. We've seen how these grand buildings were used to project imperial power and how periods of stability and prosperity can fuel artistic and cultural growth. But we've also seen that even in times of great achievement, there are always hidden costs and untold stories.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives. We get to peel back those layers of history and discover those untold stories. It's like solving a puzzle where each piece reveals a different aspect of the past.
And the puzzle is never truly finished, is it? There's always more to explore, more to learn.
That's so true. So for all you history enthusiasts out there, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep those deep dives going.